Hi, everyone. How are you doing this evening? It is Tuesday, August the 25th, and I am Miss Linda, the Sunflower Mystic, coming to you live at this time. Got the background, got me, and we're seeing who comes in a moment. It's been a day, and it's rainy today, but not as it was yesterday. So my two new companions were able to go out a little bit, much to my chagrin. It's like, okay, they still like to tangle me up in those little leashes and such. But want to start, and maybe this is going to turn into a series. I don't know, just a verse here and a verse there. It's a small devotion of particularly to those who are trying to walk the good path and to follow Jesus as Christians. We're talking about the faith talk. Um, you know what happens when we get caught up into um, hearing someone else's views or ideas that really start pulling us away from what we've been taught or what the scripture talks about or tells us about and such. Um, what happens when we get into a group and we call it negative talking, and suddenly you realize that it just out of your mouth spewed things that you normally wouldn't have said. You just got caught up into um, the moment and such. The scripture tells us to edify others. That's one way we show love to our neighbors, to edify, to lift each other up and focus on the good and leave it to God with anything else going on and such. We're not meant to be going around pointing fingers and such, and yet that's exactly what we do. And I do have an example of one who came to me, and as a medium, she had a dear loved one, a brother, I believe, was the connection, a brother or a cousin. I think it was a brother who came, and they had come in with the months and the numbers that so many of you are familiar with. Oh, okay, that's Linda's way of connecting. And she could take everything down to the jacket. He had a jacket. He was into the drugs. He showed me the markings on his arms and such. There was a tattoo um, of I forgot what it was, but it was a certain tattoo. There was some markings, another marking on the arm. Everything validated down to the car. How many siblings? It was just a blessing. And she wanted to know about, are you sure he's at peace? Well, yes, he's at peace. God is showing me he's at peace where he is. He's needing to rest. And he was shaking his head. Yes, I am. Well, I couldn't figure out why, and usually by now, after the years I've been doing this, usually that implies something tragic happened. And yes, indeed, he had taken his life, but he did not want to focus on that. He wanted to focus on, I'm at peace. I'm at peace where I am. And he was checking in on them and acknowledging, I think there was someone, the mother had the picture on the table beside her and such, and she had been pretty much resting in the recliner and such because of the grief. And he was sorrowful about that. And that was the only thing that he brought up that was started leading us into the acknowledgement of that. But lo and behold, later she came back to me. Miss Linda, Miss Linda, Miss Linda, what is it? I've been told that he's in a place of torment, but because of what he did, he will never see the pearly gates, and that he would never ascend because of what he did and such. And it just went on and on and on. And I said, who in the world's telling you this? Well, I went to another psychic medium. When there's something that's so surreal and validation after validation taken, and the faith is real, and he knew the faith, and he spoke of Jesus, and she related, because not everybody who comes to me, and even y'all have gotten caught up into that. Some of you know you come from a family that knows about God and Jesus, but not really churchgoers and not really big on that relationship and your prayer when you need it. You know how your parents are and your grandparents were and such. Others, oh yes, the hymn book was in the other hand along with the Bible, that sort of feel and sense. And so when we're told one thing and we start, believing and say everything's all right, and going with scripture, God is love, And then we start getting caught up into there is no God. There's just a pool of divine energy that wants the best for us and such, but there's no certain particular being. And that Jesus was just a great teacher, and getting half truths there. You have to be careful and watch out. And that also goes with our conversations about other people, getting caught up when you don't even know the person, into the gossip. And what's the verse for tonight? This is taken from Second Timothy. And Second Timothy, the books of Timothy, the first one and the second one, were letters written by the Apostle Paul to Timothy, who was a young upstart, a new evangelist. He was young, and so many would look down on him because of his age. And Paul, sort of being sort of a mentor to him, wrote him to encourage him and to give him some guidelines and such. And so Second Timothy 2:16, and I'm going to read the Amplified Bible version. But avoid all irreverent babble. That means going against the faith, going against what you know that God promised and commands us in the scripture. But avoid all irreverent babble and godless chatter, which means with its profane, empty words, just chattering, and usually that gossip about situations and people. And it's just mindless chatter that turns into, a lot of times it turns into degrading someone or judging someone, or uh, talking dirt about them and families and situations and such, which does not lead to any edification, which does not show love, a godly love. For what? For it will lead to further ungodliness. It just takes you down. And before you know it, you're looking back going, oh my goodness, how in the world did I get caught up into all of that? You've offended some people, you've gotten some people upset, you started your own wavelength of irreverent talking and thinking, well, maybe, maybe this path is over here is going to be better for me. And they say that, the one God is all the same and he just goes by different names. No, Jehovah Yahweh does have different names in the Bible, but he certainly isn't the same God as the Hindu faith or of the Muslim faith or of the pagan faith. And you, when you talk to a devotee, they would agree with me. It's these others outside the boundaries that say, oh, sure, everything's all right with God because he's divine. You got to be careful about what you're hearing and listening to, and be steady in what you believe and know the faith. So Second Timothy 2:16, and I'll read this. A critical spirit. A critical spirit means a judging spirit. And that's us. That spirit within us that gets us talking and being negative. It's like poison ivy. It only takes a little contact to spread its poison. Here it goes. It spreads, you know how a rumor is. It spreads like wildfire. And now we've got social media these days. Goodness, I'm thankful for growing up in an era of the 80s that didn't have social media. I don't know how the children survive these days. Strong parents and a solid faith background behind them. Goodness, and I pray for the generations coming up through all of this. Want to give a shout out. And Stacy, you know about that poison ivy, don't you? You said something about poison, and you didn't. What was it? Poison oak or poison ivy? And I was reading that going, poison? Stacy? 911? What? And then I started reading the comments and realized, oh. And so Pamela and I both agreed. I didn't know because Pamela is more of the parent than I am, of course. But she was agreeing with a lot of those statements. Heather, how are you doing? Well, I'm just getting back into the swing of things, Heather. So, hey, you and I both been chilling. I pray all is well. And hello, Carrie. I thank you for joining us this evening and such. Ladies, I'm just really burnt out. My cards are burnt out. I overdid it yesterday and today. And so I appreciate it if we could just take a break from any. Now, if I'm hearing any messages, I'm sitting here talking and saying this, and at the same time saying if there's any loved one that wishes to step in and just shout out in my ear or such. And I'm not hearing anyone just yet and such, but I've been coming on quite a bit yesterday and today, and I tell you what, the cards are smoking. I've got to smoke them. I've got to cleanse them up and pull out some other cards and such. It does help me to connect in a group and fast, um, and not use this so much, but at the same time it does. So I'm going to take a break from that and such. Getting the kids ready for bed, Heather. I pray all is well, and just pay attention to what's going on and such, and just make sure that the little ones are safe, and just notice the conversations and such in regards to what you was asking me in private message and such. Stacy, you've missed these. That does my heart good. Even tonight I was like, what am I going to do? I'm still trying to pull things in, and I'm like, I am not going to be um persuaded to just cancel just because I've had it and I've burnt myself out. God even pulled me back up to about 2 hours before, and usually he does anyway. He's like, I was like, I don't know which way to go. What do I do? What do I do? And he's like, rest, because you got the 9 o'clock. Okay. So be careful. Oh, be careful of little tongue, what you say, and oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. There's a children's song, and y'all, I was a kindergarten teacher. Let's see, how does it begin? Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, careful, little ears, what you hear. For the Father up above, looking down in his love. So be careful, little ears, what you hear. He knows and watches over everybody. And so when we get that little nudge from the Spirit saying, maybe you shouldn't be listening to this, don't get caught up into this, back up and be the one to stand up and say, it stops here with me, especially with gossip or stories. And especially, and also with irreverent talk of the faith. As Christians, we can politely bow out and say, well, that sounds good in a way, but something's going on with that. Something's up with that. Let me take it to God in prayer about that. And I've done that so many times. Lakeland has an ear infection and getting her antibiotics. I'm sorry. Goodness, take her back to the doctor. Oh, certainly. Certainly, Grandmother Betty, she comes near. She's come near before. And know that she's at peace and rest and still watching over, and just go back to the times that that she's come in close and such. And if when the time comes, as always, everybody, and for those of you listening later on, I thank you for coming, and may the faith talk help you hear and listen to just little things, how to apply it to our daily life. At the same time, I do private sessions as a medium, a seer, a prophetess, a pet reader, even do paranormal and such. And so there's just a thing of many hats with me. However way God uses, private message me on Facebook if you're interested, because I go from mediumship, acknowledging loved ones, to questions dealing with decisions and love, and where you are in life and where things might be headed with the energies and what I'm being shown, and do the pet readings and also paranormal. And I usually don't say anything about that, but yes, there have been times people have contacted me with spiritual stuff going on, activities and such. And it's not good. It's like a nightly, daily thing. And so they get a hold of me and we look into things and take care of it. And praise be to God, being able to help see and understand what's going on and to help different ones in so many different ways. But Faith Talk, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'm going to go off, and I'll try not to pull so many, I'll try not to pull it so much for tomorrow. I'll be a little bit more refreshed and a little bit more on my toes of what we're talking about and where God's leading. Take care. Thank you so much for liking the video. If you would just click on that little like button, and if you're listening later on, I thank you for going to my Facebook page and liking the following the page of the Sunflower Mystic, and I'll put those details in the details section of this video. Take care and God bless everyone. Let him lead and guide you. May he give you peace and protection. Peace be to all of you, your families, and fur babies tonight. God bless.